Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining the RSA and Redington session. We have Hani Samara, the Authenticate specialist in RSA, who will be running throughout the session. We hope we will provide you all the information required, and you can go to the Q&A button on the left. At the end of the session, we will answer all your questions. Please note that after answering all your questions, we will run a short quiz. There will be three winners. They will get a gift voucher to their email ID. Hani, over to you. You can start.
Thank you, Raghda. Thank you so much. Can you hear me well?
Yes,
Okay.
Hani, you can proceed.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Hani Samara. I am the RSA Identity Specialist. I'm looking after SECURID suite for Middle East, Turkey, and Africa. And what we have today is a quick presentation and overview of SECURID suite, especially SECURID Access solution. And here is our agenda for today. Please, if you have any questions, like Raghda said, please use the Q&A from the left menu to drop the question, and I will answer it after the session. So let's start with the first part is, what is SECURID suite? What are the solutions we have in SECURID suite? We have two main components, SECURID Access and Identity Governance and Lifecycle. SECURID Access is mainly for identity assurance. Who is this user, and is this the user have the right identity to access this application? Is the user who they claim to be, this user is the really owner of this identity? So we verify the user identity by authentication and different types of authenticators. And also we provide in SECURID Access single sign-on. So we have first capability is access and single sign-on. Once the user access any application or log into the SSO portal, he's eligible to access all applications without re-entering the username and password again. And the second feature is authentication. We will gonna authenticate the user by different ways, like software token, hardware token, multi-factor. We have our authenticators and we integrate with different and third-party authenticator also, which we'll see after a few slides. So SECURID Access mainly for identity assurance, starting with access and SSO and then authentication. Second part and second solution we have in SECURID suite is governance and lifecycle, which provide identity governance. Identity governance provide customers with visibility, collecting information of the organization, how many users you have, orphan account, active, disabled, who has access to what exactly. It's about access assurance. And the second part is life cycle. After visibility, collecting information, know who has access to what, build your access review, segregation duty, and everything. Now it's time to automate the cycle, starting from the hiring, termination, movement, assign self-services to the end user. So for easy use, and they can request access by themselves, approvals, notification, and a lot of features. This is the two core components we have in SECURID suite, SECURID Access and Governance and Lifecycle. Today we will focus on SECURID Access. So before we start with SECURID Access, we need to highlight in two parts. What is a 2FA and MFA? Sometimes it's confusing our customers what I need from an authentication perspective. Is it two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication? And what is the difference between them? Even sometimes it's for the technical guys, it's a little bit confusing. So basically, two-factor authentication is something you know and something you have. Something you know that like your password, something you have like your ATM card. So if I have your ATM card and your password, I can use it without any additional verification. But in the multi-factor authentication, it is a little bit different. It's something you know, something you have, and something you are. Something you are which cannot be cloned or be copied. Even I have your username and password, I have to prove myself by something belong to you, like your face, your voice, your fingerprint. This is a multi-factor authentication way. And finally, we have the identity assurance, which is a risk engine. It's coming with RSA multi-factor authentication. Risk Engine is a very, very intelligent engine to understand the user behavior and define the unusual behavior or malicious one for accessing application. We will talk about it in details in the next few slides. So basically, 2FA is something you know, something you have. Remember this very well. Multi-factor authentication, on top of that, it is something you cannot be cloned or be copied. So let's start again with SECURID access. What will SECURID access will provide from a technical perspective? Single sign-on, one login, one identifier, one username to access all applications without re-entering the password or the credentials again. Authentication, and this authentication could be different from application to another. We can use software token for application X, hardware token for application Z, and this is really one of our flexibility and advantage in RSA. So ensure right individuals have convenient and secure access, and meet access requirements for the organizations, reduce startup times, and lower cost from business perspective. Now let's talk about RSA SECURID access authenticators. What types of authenticators we have and how we can use it. The first slide here is the traditional authenticators we have. This is our old school and the oldest one, the hardware token, which we use it, I think, more than 30 years till now. We have a lot of customers around the world using the strongest and the most common hardware token. And also we have the software token, which is a new one. It's an app you can install it on your phone, supported by Android or iOS, to generate the software token. And this app, protected by a PIN code, in the first time you use, after you install the software token and start to run it, you will be prompted to assign a new PIN code. PIN code is like a password to protect the application while generating the code. You use the code combined with this PIN to access the applications for any purpose. The second and the enhanced authenticators we have here, this is the multi-factor authentication. This is what we enhanced and we have now to support our customers around the world for MFA. We have three types and different types. Approve, which is a notification you will receive it on your phone once you trying to log into the application. It will be like an additional verification of the username and password. Then you're trying to log into this application, you will be challenged by any way of this. Approve or device biometric, which is your fingerprint, your local fingerprint stored on your phone. So if you change your fingerprint anytime, we will use the updated one, which is stored in your phone, nothing on the cloud. There is no need to sync anything from like this information, confidential one, with our servers or anything else. It is something stored in your phone. And the last one is a software token code. It is a code like the previous slide to be generated every 60 seconds, also protected by a PIN code. So you can use different way to authenticate while accessing the application. You have the software token and the hardware token for 2FA, and the multi-factor authentication, which provide approve and OTP and device biometric, token code again, and different types. So this only the authenticators we support and we have? Definitely no. We have a wide range of authenticators. We have extended authenticators. We can integrate with different vendors and third party like FIDO 1 and 2. And recently we add YubiKey to our lovely list of authenticators. You can use multiple types of authenticators to authenticate the user accessing the application, starting from the software, hardware, push, OTP, ODA, face detection, voice recognition, fingerprint, and YubiKey and FIDO. Everything you have here to authenticate for the target application according to the business need and whatever the use case you have. And now let's talk about the capabilities and what the features we have in RSA SECURID access, what make us different. The first one is the wide range of certified and supported application. We support more than 500 applications which is certified. We call it ready integration. The ready integration is a unified integration released by RSA. There is no customization, workaround, no additional work for integration. It's very straight forward, and there is no coding also in this type of integration. It's very simple, quick to integrate, quick to troubleshoot, quick to upgrade, because in other cases, if you have a custom integration, it is a little bit pain for the customer and for the technical team for any updates or modification or upgrades. Even there is some challenges comes up with these types of integration. However, but in RSA we have a straight ready integration, big list. We can share. You can check the RSA community for the big list of our supported and ready integration. We support Microsoft, Citrix, Cisco, Pulse Secure, Palo Alto, VMware, different and wide range of different vendors for authentication. Second part is our wide range of authenticators. Some other vendors, they are very close to their authenticators. They don't have the capability to integrate with the differentiation or the others, but in our SECURID access, we support third-party authentication, we support different authenticators, and we have a wide range of our authentication type. Now it is a risk-based authentication, and the risk-based authentication, I can spend in this slide a lot talking about it. It is very smart, very intelligent, can understand the user behavior after several successful logins without any additional configuration or pre-configured policies. Imagine that the user, Hani Samara, is logging every day from certain place, certain region, with a specific criteria, timing, operating system, even the web browser, the security release of his laptop, the upgrades, all this information we collected after the user login, after for sure successful logins. Then we build our policy and the user profile. So we know that Hani Samara every day login from this location using the same device, the same time, browser, and everything. If we detect anything changed or unusual behavior or malicious one, we will step up as a risky login, and then we will ask the user to prove himself by a more convenient way. So his basic and standard authentication using his username and password, and then the software token code. That's it. But when we detect another behavior of the user, we will be automatically asking the user after the software token to prove himself by a more convenient way, like biometric, face detection, voice, OTP, different ways. And maybe we can ask him to use his FIDO or YubiKey also to prove himself that he's really the owner of this identity. So all this behavior, it is automatically and without any pre-configuration or policies. This is the core and the thing here with the risk-based authentication, the advanced one. He can learn the user behavior and takes the right decision without any configuration from himself. He will not deny the access automatically, but he will ask the user to prove himself, and then will define what we should do now, allow him to access or deny the access. And there is more features in the risk engine. We will talk about it later. And finally, we have the assurance level. And the assurance level is a very nice feature provided by RSA for the customer. It gives the customers the flexibility and let them feel how they can navigate from an application to another one smoothly and very seamless without any challenges. For example, we will understand from the customer about his application criticality. Let us say they have an application with high level, which is related to the salaries or confidential data, or maybe something cannot be exposed or need to be very confidential. So we will assume it is on a high level, sensitive data. And we have another application with low one, which is all the employees and the customer can use it. We will set and configure a policy for the high level application to authenticate the user using multiple ways and using the MFA, for example, biometric and software token and FIDO together, combined together. If you want to authenticate and to log in to this application with the high assurance level, you have to do 1, 2, 3 to authenticate using this approach. And for the low one, you have to authenticate using only approve. So if the user authenticate and log in from a high level and already authenticate and prove himself by all these authenticators, if he tried to access or to navigate to another application with less security, like the medium or low, he will access the application without any additional verification, without any additional authentication or validation, because he's already proved himself. He's coming from a high convenient way and high convenient assurance level and trying to access lower one like medium and low. So he will access with a single sign-on without re-entering the username and password and without it challenging again. But in the opposite, if the user trying to access from a low to medium and he already authenticate by a low level, so for medium he gonna to be authenticate again with a different way and different authentication type to prove himself. And for sure also for the high, as you see, if you're coming from up, you can go down easily. If you're coming from down, you have to prove yourself step by step to go to the highest one. So this is the capabilities we have and the features, especially from SECURID access. And now, just to summarize what we spoke about, we have the gold standard and the old school for authentication, which is software and hardware token we have. It's also trusted by, I think it's more than 30,000 now, not only 25. And we are handling a lot of active users, more than 50 million active users around the world. We have a strong throughput and we can manage the high and the big enterprise scale. Also, we have more than 500 certified technology, which is ready to integrate without any customization or workaround. It's very useful to our customers. They like it very much as it's ready integration with supported protocols even. And the new one, the enhanced authenticators, comes with a multi-factor authentication supported by mobile MFA, SaaS delivery, and on-prem hybrid model, risk engine, different features we will see together in the next slides. Now, let's talk about the authentication system itself. How does authentication work and in different ways with the 2FA and MFA? The traditional identity assurance here is very simple. A user trying to access a resource with software token and username and password. If everything is right, he can access the resource. If there is something wrong with his token code, simply the access will be denied. There is no logic, there is no advanced risk engine here. But with the seamless identity assurance which comes with the risk engine, the advanced one, and the assurance levels and all capabilities, let's see what is the behavior now. First, the user need to prove himself by the user level. We have 3 levels, risk levels: users, resource, and context. The first one is about the user itself. We can build our policy based on the user itself, like his title, his department, maybe an attribute coming from the Active Directory. We can use the session information to define the user, even the group membership. So based on this, we can build the first step. And then the resource itself. The resource, which could be the IP address or a specific domain or a certain domain to access. We can define the policy for this user, what he can access and what he's denied from accessing. So basically, we can set a list of IPs, list of domains under the resource risk level, and even the user authenticated fine, but he's not allowed to access these applications. And finally, the context, which is about network, location, behavior, country, agent, browser, a lot of factors here we can build the user risk level from. So these 3 together, we use it to build the user profile and identify his behavior. Everything is right, matching with our policy, he can access a resource without any additional verification or without any problem. But if there is something wrong with the context, he already proved himself from the user level and the resource level. He's trying to access a right resource with an IP, right domain and right IP address, and his user profile is correct. Everything, all the information in the session is matching with our policy, but there is something wrong with the context. He's coming from a different region, location, or maybe he changed the browser or anything else. This is not the normal behavior of the user. So we'll step up again and ask the user to prove himself by a more convenient way. And this is something not configured. This is automatically detected by the risk engine. So we'll ask him for a biometric push token, maybe all of them together. If it's okay, he can access the application without any problems. But for the resource, the access will be denied automatically because he's trying to access something not listed in his profile, like IP address, using a different protocol, or a different user trying to access another domain. His access will be denied. The only way we ask the user to prove himself is the context part. But for the resource, no, there is no way to ask the user to prove himself because it is already something static and listed. Why you need to access this application or this domain? This is something unusual or malicious behavior, so the access will be denied, and will also it's supported by a notification cycle to take an action from the admin levels. So basically, you have three risk level: user, resource, and context. If there is something wrong with the resource, the access will be denied. If the context is changed, we will ask the user to prove himself again by a more convenient way to let him access the target system. And now it's just about the identity assurance engine, what we collect, what we match, and what we do with all this information. Basically, we collect location, role, network, device, session, applications he usually used to access even, and then we match it with the behavior of the user itself, and then build our decision to allow him to access, or is it a risky, and ask him to prove himself again by different way, or to deny the access because he's trying to access a forbidden resource, or he failed to prove himself. So about the architecture, let's see what the components we have in SECURID access. Basically, we have two components: identity router and authentication manager. And remember both of them very well. If you are looking for on-prem solution for two-factor authentication only, software or hardware token, so your choice will be Authentication Manager. Authentication Manager is a standalone server deployed in the internal network to integrate with the identity source or the identity repository, and the user is using software token to access applications. Authentication Manager support different protocols, support Radius, and also we support REST API and different protocols. So if your concern and your approach is two-factor authentication for on-prem solution, Authentication Manager, your best practice. So if you are looking for more features, more capabilities, like single sign-on, risk engine, so it would be identity router. Identity router is another component with two interfaces, like the proxy comes with two interfaces from external and internal. Identity router usually deployed in the DMZ and facing the internet with the external router with external interface. Hosting the SSO agent on it, built in with the SSO agent, it's a portal. We use it to integrate with the different applications of the customer and make it as a centralized point of access. And the internal interface is to connect and to communicate with the internal repository or the identity source for authentication synchronization. So the identity router for single sign-on and multi-factor authentication, support for biometric, face detection, and all this stuff comes with Radius built in, and the SSO agent, which is a portal already built in the identity router. And there is a small part about the identity router. It's managed from cloud service. There is no managing interface, only just for configuring IPs, but to manage the identity router and build the risk engine and build the policies and everything, configure the zone, configure everything with identity router, configure the application integration using SAML or Radius or REST API or whatever. The admin console is hosted in the cloud part from RSA. We have our tenant hosted in different places. We provide it to the customer as a private tenant to manage the identity router, because identity router is a black box. There is no access direct to him. You have to manage it from the cloud part, which we call it the CAS, Cloud Authentication Service, for everything. And you just press publish. There is a secured and encrypted configuration between the cloud part and the identity router. All the configuration will be featured to the identity router and easy to use, up and running on time. So the identity router managed from the cloud comes for, provides a single sign-on and multi-factor authentication. Authentication manager for on-prem solution and support different features like 2FA and software token and hardware token. And for sure, you can have both of them as a hybrid model. You have the cloud model for identity router. You have the on-prem model for authentication manager, and this is what we will see now. So if we are talking about authentication manager architecture, this is the protocols we support here for authentication manager: SAML, HTTP Federation, Trusted Headers, Radius, SECURID protocol, REST API. What authentication or the authenticators we support: FIDO, YubiKey, software token, hardware token, risk-based authentication, and ODA token. As you see, the authentication manager in the LAN interface, in the LAN side, integrated with the Active Directory or the LDAP user directory for user authentication, and support the user for accessing even for VPN or accessing different applications. However, with the IDR only architecture, you can see the IDR position in the DMZ. There is no need for the authentication manager here. We can use the identity router to integrate with the cloud applications, the cloud part, and we can manage the external resources also, and then integrate with the internal LDAP for authentication. What we support here is SAML, HTTP Federation, Trusted Header, Radius, and REST API. Authentication methods here is push, device, OTP, voice SMS, FIDO also, and YubiKey, and identity, confidence, single sign-on, and the risk engine, the advanced one, which come with the risk levels, user, resource, and context. The best practice is to have the hybrid model. Hybrid model is a maximum flexibility architecture. You can use it to integrate the identity router with authentication manager, give you all possibilities to integrate with all applications, all types of applications, legacy one or using protocols, support all the authentication methods we have, starting from the MFA and 2FA and all types of authenticators. Also comes with the risk engine, so you have the advanced risk engine of the identity router, and you have the standard risk engine of the authentication manager. Now, the SSO portal. We have some screenshots for our SSO portal to give you better understanding of the login interface. This is a portal. You can access it using an HTTPS and it's a published URL. Some customers publish our interface, the SSO portal external, or they just publish it internally within the organization. The user here accessing using his username and password of the Active Directory or the internal LDAP, which is already integrated with identity router or the authentication manager, and then the identity router will do like an acknowledge with Active Directory. Is it the user credential is right and correct to login? And once there is a login, he will see the portal interface and the portal web interface with all applications already integrated with SECURID access or the IDR. And you can see also the assurance level already configured here with different applications. So it means if the user trying to access any application of these applications, he will not be prompted for any username and password. It will be only about authentication. There is no need for a username and password again because a single sign-on on place. So for example, if the user accessing the Office 365 or whatever the application, we will send an assign request to his phone, which is registered already in his profile in our system. And you can see there is a lot of options here. We can define different options to authenticate the user. Maybe the user phone does not support the biometric. Maybe he lost his phone or he forgot the phone. So, and this application configured to login using a biometric, but we can add different options as you can see below. We can add OTP, we can add token code, we can add FIDO or YubiKey also. So if the user trying to log in an application and his phone is not available, so he can use a different option from the list below and select the most suitable one to access the application. And once the user clicks approve, he can access to the application. Now, let's talk about the licensing model and how we can position SECURID access to our customer based on the needs and the business requirements. We have 3 tiers from a license perspective. The first tier is base, and the base will provide you with SSO portal, authentication, hardware, software, ODA, enhanced authenticators also, radius, SAML protocol, and IP address authentication. For the enterprise, on top of that, add to the base the high availability, because the base license comes with only one primary and one replica. But if your customer is looking for more high availability and more servers for redundancy, so you're going to position enterprise, because you have in the enterprise one primary and up to 15 replica. If the customer have load balancer, we can configure more than instance after the load balancer to manage the traffic. And also the authentication manager bulk administration tool, the AMBA tool. It's very smart and very intelligent tool. We use it to collect the user from different identity sources or identity repository. For example, we are using Active Directory for authentication. We are using the Active Directory, the user already exists in the Active Directory to verify the user access. But if we have an application and we need to integrate it with a single sign-on or for the authenticator to authenticate this application, and this application users is local, it does not exist in the Active Directory. So how we can fix it? And there is no way to integrate this application with the Active Directory. So our AMBA tool is very simple, easily can collect this information from this target application, which is a standalone application, and build these accounts in our servers and use it as a local accounts comes from the Active Directory to authenticate the user. Very easy. So in the last tier, which is the premium, add what features comes in the base and the enterprise. Add on top of them, the premium one comes with identity risk engine and identity confidence, which is the behavior. So the premium will include everything, as you can see. Comes with a replica, this is a portal, high availability, advanced risk engine, and identity confidence. And these tiers give you the flexibility to position which is the right scenario to your customers. You can check with the customer what you're looking for. What is if you are preferring on-prem, cloud, high availability, risk engine is needed or not. According to the business need, you can customize it and position the right scenario and the right license model for the customer. And finally, this is the last slide I think we have, is the deployment model. What we support and what we have from deployment perspective. We have 2 types, the hardware appliance and the virtual appliance. Hardware appliance, it's shipped, comes with everything, operating system, software, everything ready, local database. We have 2 types in the hardware, which is designed to a small and medium enterprises for standalone, or the appliance 250 comes with dual power supply, hard disk, everything is dual for high availability. You can have more than one appliance. For example, the 130, you can have 2 appliances and make a high availability between them, and or you can position appliance 250, only one for high availability. So this is from the hardware appliance. But in the virtual appliance, we have a ready OVE, which is very smart. And in our situation here, you can see in our situation now, we can see with this pandemic, it is very hard to ship and deliver some stuff. So the OVE, it is very easy to download from RSA portal once the customer finish all the requirements for the license. He can log into the portal and deploy the OVE file. The OVE files comes ready with the operating system, with the database, with the software, Very simple to import it in the VMware, Hyper-V, or Amazon Web Service also, and it will be up and running in just a few minutes. Very simple to use. So we support hardware appliance and virtual appliance, VMware, Microsoft Hyper-V, and AWS. I think we are done now. It is a questions part. It's over to you, Raghda. I can check the chat if we have any questions or something. We can discuss it.
Hi. Yeah, if there are any questions, we can ask them now, and Hani will be happy to take over the questions. And guys, please stay back because we have a quiz coming up right after this with exciting prizes. So I just want to, so that you guys know that we have a quiz going on after this. We have the winners. So we have Khalid, Abraham, and Moyad as our first top 3 winners. We'll be sending you your gift vouchers in the email in the upcoming few days. And thank you so much, guys, for joining us.